Good afternoon. It is Tuesday, November 25th, 5:15 p.m., City Hall, and with a quorum of members present, I'll be calling the Finance Committee to order. Item number 1 on our agenda is public comment on agenda items and reading of the City of Wausau public comment statement. Do we have anybody here wishing for public comment? I don't see anybody other than staff, so we're going to move on to item number 2. Consideration of the minutes of the preceding meetings, and that is for October 28th, 2025, and November 11th, 2025. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion from Watson. A second. Second from Greiner. Discussion? Not hearing anything. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? And that carries. All right. Item number 3. Discussion and possible action. Item A, establishing the 2025 property tax equivalent for Wausau Waterworks. And this is something that we discuss on an annual basis, otherwise known as the pilot payment from the utility to the city. So, anybody have any questions about that for Mary Ann? This is the same amount of property tax equivalent or pilot that we have done for the last couple years, so it is not more or less than what we did previously.
I would move to approve the pilot payment for the waterworks.
Okay, motion from Watson, a second. Is there a second on there? A second from Greiner. Discussion? Not hearing anything. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? And that carried. Item B, adding contract approvals within the procurement policy. If you've seen in the packet, there's been an addition to the procurement policy in regards to, see if I can find it highlighted, on the fourth page of the policy, and I think we got Eric up here that'll tell us a little bit more. So,
yeah, based on some comments we had over the last couple of years with our capital projects, right, and presenting to council and presenting to committee and coming through, Mary Ann and I talked about some ways to help with that process. Typically, right now, our projects go through the budget process. Some of our capital projects go to the CIP committee early in the year or mid-year, and then from there, they end up in finance committee, right, with the number of budget sessions that we have. The remaining projects do not go through the committee for ranking, but they do go to the finance committee, and that's where they're viewed, that's where they're presented. And so we obviously have dozens of projects every year. They range anywhere from $20,000 or maybe even less up to millions of dollars, right? And so the idea is how do we bring those projects forward so that they go through the process, everybody sees them, everybody understands what's being presented, whether they're coming from a TID, the levy, grant dollars, loan dollars, wherever they're coming from. Every January, typically in January, through the special assessment process, we bring a resolution to the city council to let bids. So the budget gets passed with all of the projects. We hold public hearings for special assessments on the street projects, and then those projects come to the city council for approval, right, to let the bids, to actually bid those projects. And so that was one of the options here that was presented to do that. The challenge with that is we need to do it much earlier because we're already working on 27 street projects and other projects. And so when we work on the capital projects, right, and we have staff upstairs and engineering and otherwise working on projects, how do we do this at an early enough stage so we have confidence that projects are going to move forward through the process? And so I think that we should bring something forward through committee and council once we're working through the CIP or the capital project process that outlines all the projects that we're proposing. And so And I don't know, I need feedback actually from the committee on how they want to see that. Do they want to see that in a resolution to council? Do you want to see that just at the finance committee? And how would you like that presented? You know, and then what are the project thresholds that you want approved by council versus just committee? I think I'm happy to outline all of our projects as we move through the capital project process, to kind of get that buy-in from committee. Happy to put it in a resolution for the city council as well. But I would prefer to begin that process though in May or June when we're working on projects. And then is there a cost threshold? It says 50,000 in here. I would say like maybe 250,000 and up. I mean, a $50,000 project when it comes to capital projects for us is pretty small. So that's like garage doors, things like that. I don't know. If you want to get that detailed, that's fine. We can outline those too, but yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say typically the smaller projects, like the $50,000 projects, are the ones that end up on our CIP docket. But the larger things, we've, you know, like the road projects, we see them go through infrastructure.
Yeah.
And then the council,
Right.
but not necessarily the finance.
And I think only if they need to assess. So I think,
Correct,
I
yeah.
included an example of the annual resolution that currently is submitted to council that says, okay, we're going to let bids on these projects.
Yep.
And, you know, if you look at the example I gave, the 2020, this resolution was considered by council January of 2022, and they were 2022 projects. You know, again, after we put the packet together, Eric was like, wow, that's a little late because we might be doing projects without, and spending time, you know, designing, as he said, and then really, if you're not going to approve them, then his staff has spent time on those projects. And if it wasn't assessed, I'm trying to think of examples where we have projects that aren't assessed, like the state projects
Correct.
are generally
Yep.
not assessed.
Right.
So we don't, but those are usually let by the state, aren't they? Or no?
Yeah, yeah, they're typically let
Yeah.
by the state. And so, yeah, I mean, we just have a wide variety and range of projects. And some of those state projects take a little bit different path too, you know, because we're getting contributing funds. So we bring those to committee, you know, to apply for those and to accept those funds and with those projects. But the actual approval of the projects in the past has always been done through the budget process, right? We have a number of finance meetings. We go over all of those projects and our operating expenses, and I realize it's a lot of information, right? By the time it comes to committees and then even to council. So just based on some feedback, we're trying to figure out other ideas on how to better outline our capital projects that we bring forward and are expecting to do the following year.
Committee, Alder Walton?
So, Eric, on Edis's meeting, we had like extra money, right? And we were sort of as a committee looking at a bunch of like projects that you guys had outlined, and they had amounts to them, right? Is that how all these, like the one that Marianne included, like this is in final resolution, it says there's about 2.3 million is going to be the construction costs. Do you have that like itemized out per project at that point or not?
Yeah, we have detailed estimates for each one of our projects, street projects anyway, you know, that have the street costs, and then the water and sewer costs are separate. Storm sewer is typically wrapped in with streets, but that's broke out too. And so, yeah.
Because when do we get this one to infrastructure? Don't we usually get that in like October, November, like late
Yeah.
at
So-
the end of the year?
Yeah, so those projects typically come in with the budget process, right? And so, but we work on the capital projects earlier in the year, going into June, and that's typically when those projects are formally identified.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I would just say, you know, if, just because we changed the procurement policy and we try it one year, we can still tweak it the next year Like, we don't have to live with anything we craft forever. It's just for that moment. But really, the goal was to prevent people from feeling like there's not transparency in our projects.
Yeah, and I think, like, because I think different alders, right, and have different views on different projects, right? And may have questions, but like with the dozens of projects that we do every year, and certain projects are picked out, I can't predict what projects are going to be in question and which projects are not. So I'm trying to understand how to present them in a format to you and when, so that everybody's kind of on the same page as we're moving through even the beginning of the budget process for the following year. So if I look at the process for 26 going into 27, we will begin the capital project in April, May timeframe. And so that would be the time that, we would identify our capital projects for whatever funding sources we're aware of at that time and, develop that list of projects and estimates and those types of things. So,
And I think just as examples of other projects that really are not coming to council for approval in an itemized fashion like this, but are included in the budget would be like the asphalt overlay contract every
Right.
year, our concrete replacement,
our
Sidewalk.
pavement marking,
your
sidewalk.
pavement marking,
Yep.
ramp
Yep.
restoration work.
Yes.
Those would just be some other examples that you're not specifically approving. You're approving because they're within the budget. Just to kind of give you an idea of some of the
Yeah,
other
it's-
ones. And those typically, like asphalt overlay and concrete improvements happen every single year.
Yep.
And based on the budget, so they put it out for bid, the quantities, we fall within the quantities so that we live within the budget and.
Yeah, for like asphalt overlay or sidewalks, we budget a certain amount of money and then
Correct.
let bids and that stuff doesn't come back to committee because it's,
Right.
it's
Right.
whatever the bid amount
But we
is.
could definitely change.
But,
Yep.
would 50,000 be too low of a threshold? Do you want to see something higher? I mean, the small stuff will probably end up on CIP anyways, so. Start at 50,000, see if it becomes onerous?
Yeah, that was more so my question. And like, at what point does, in the grand scheme of things, 50,000 sounds like a lot, but in a lot of things we do, it's not really that much. Is it going to become too taxing to do all of these small things over and over again? So, like, what number would be a good number? I mean, in our opinion, like 100, 150,
Yeah,
somewhere in
Alder
there.
Tierney?
In my opinion, I think we start with the 50, and if it does become too taxing, we can look at making that number bigger. But since this would be something different for us, I think we start that way and see if we need to expand it, or not, see what's manageable, and if it's not, we make revisions. As
I guess-
Mary Ann said, it's not something you have to live with, you can make
Right.
changes, so I'd rather err on the side of caution.
We don't know what the threshold is, so we got to start at some point, and then we can move up and down the scale until we find that balance. So that's
Thank
what
you.
I'm hearing from the committee. All right, well, if we want to stay at 50,000, then I guess all we need is a motion. Alder Tierney, and a second. A second from Greiner, and discussion. Not hearing anything. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? And that carries.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
Good deal. Item C, approving credit agreement with Judd S. Alexander Foundation, Inc., 201 North First Avenue. And this is for the property, the MBX box property, and that was purchased with a combination of TID money and then also money from the Alexander Foundation. And this is this would be the loan documents to formalize that. So, Alder McElhaney.
I have great questions about this because when this went through council, none of this was involved. So I think transparency, again, we need to understand. My understanding is council never agreed to this. This is it now. I don't know where this is coming from. I mean, it sounds, I need a full explanation. I appreciate the memo in the packet. I appreciate that. But I also worry, oh, there goes my iPad. I also worry about that we are being pigeonholed in this with affordable housing. I think that when we have, our residents expect us to do the best development that is going to affect and do the best for all residents. I think this saying, well, it will be forgivable with only affordable housing, I think we really need to discuss that. It's coming on the back end of this, and I guess I need to understand where this came from. I was hoping the mayor would be here because he's the one who apparently made this deal, and I think he needs to talk to us about that. Thank you.
Alder Tierney?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had the very same concerns when I read this, because this was not what we were told when this went through. We were told that the foundation was going to put $250,000 on there. There was not these strings at all when this information was given to us. Therefore, because of the lack of transparency on this, until we get some of this resolved, some of the questions answered, I can't support this because I feel like we were hoodwinked on this one. Thank you.
Mary Ann, is this something that they're waiting on for the closing, or?
No, so we've already purchased the property. So this agreement or the proposal came in after council had already approved the purchase. So it was not envisioned during that purchase deliberations. So I don't think that we have any big timeline. Do you think we have a big timeline on this, Ann?
What timeline?
Yeah, like where someone's expecting us to sign this today if they decided
Time
to
is-
wait until the next meeting?
You know, like with the closing, time is of the essence.
Yeah, I'm not aware that time is of the essence either. And I wasn't aware of the deal. I was just asked to look at it, but I did understand that it was not needed for the acquisition. And in fact, you said the property had closed, so. And it's a little light on objective standards for when the loan would be forgiven and on what definition of affordable housing and so forth, but that's up to the comfort level of the council who's worked with the foundation in the past, which I point out in the memo. Does anybody have any other questions? Yes.
Alder Renner?
So one of my questions in regards to this is it states that the loan is set to expire or come due September of 2028. And in the past with, for example, West Side Commons, we originally received the donation from the foundation in, was it 2014, 2016? There we go, 2016. And that project wasn't completed until this year, which meaning we probably would have paid interest on that. So given the state of affairs with the property and us not even knowing what we're doing with it yet, and our timeline to do the demolition, all the remediation, find a developer, all of this, that is well within or outside of our range of 2028, I believe, if we're thinking about this conservatively at this point. That would be my only, well, not my only, but that is my main.
I think that's a good observation,
Yeah,
and
my
they're
main
anxious to motivate the council to get it redeveloped in under 3 years, but that's an ambitious timeline if you
And-
want the $250,000.
And if they would be able, if we would be able to solicit this offer again down the road, if they would still have the ability to do that for us. So, that's all.
Any others? Do we, Alder Tierney?
I'm going to ask Mr. Pfeiffer a question, please, if you don't mind.
Good evening.
Hi, thank you, Randy. Were you aware that of the affordable housing part of this loan when this was coming through, or no?
No, we weren't aware of that this offer was going to be made because this was made after council voted to purchase the property. I did review the documents after and noted the affordable housing. That's one of the options we talked about within the potential uses of the property. As was expressed, it's always a little concerning when we're pigeonholing ourselves into a specific use for the property as we're just getting started looking at that process and what environmental remediation looks like. I think the affordable housing is a good use for it, but I wouldn't want to say that's the only thing we're doing. And keeping in mind, this is money that they're giving us, but there's also penalties on it, so you have to risk or weigh that risk.
Thank you, Randy.
I think yeah, Alderman Michelini.
Thank you, Director Pfeiffer, because that's exactly, you said it much more eloquent, that we don't want to pigeonhole ourselves, and that's what I was worried about. Affordable housing is fine, but that may not be the best use for this property. We want the best use, and we are so early in this whole situation that I also, Alder Greiner's point about that we have a 3-year time window before the interest starts accruing, and you look at any project we've done, and especially affordable housing with the LIHTC credits, we'll never get that done in 3 years. I don't have any faith in that at all. So like I said, I wish the mayor was here because this is not what I understood this was going to be. I thought it was something totally different. And while I appreciate the thought behind this offer, I know it was done in good faith and trying to help the city of Wausau. I don't want people to mischaracterize what I'm saying, that it's against the foundation at all. But I just feel that it isn't something I can support right now because I think it's way too early in the process and there's too many unanswered questions for me. Thank you.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we need a little bit of clarification here, a little clarity on this. Especially that's tying us, we're being tied to a timeline 3 years with a 2-year extension for up to 5 years, but that's still, we've seen how long it takes to move affordable housing along, and I'd be concerned. So, Alder Watson?
Could we table this and just come back to it and see if maybe there's some wiggle room in the language, like?
I think that's what we're going to need to do. That's why I was asking if time is of the essence, but it seems like it's not necessarily, since the property is already closed. We can work on this a little bit, maybe. So,
Move to table until our next scheduled meeting.
Okay. Motion from Watson and a second from Tierney to table this item until our next scheduled meeting. Discussion? Not hearing anything. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? And that carries. Okay. Item D, approving purchase of animal impoundment services agreement. And let's see. We've got, and this is our regular contract with the Marathon County Humane Society, and we had discussed this, the dollar amounts for this non-dog stray contract during our budget sessions. So this formalizes the process with the Humane Society. So, any questions? Otherwise, we can entertain a motion. Motion from Watson, a second. Second from Tierney. Discussion? Not hearing anything. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? And that carries. Okay. Item number E, approving municipality held for cause services agreement between the Humane Society of Marathon County, Inc. and the City of Wausau from January 1st, 2026 through December 31st, 2027. This is a 2-year contract. Again, this is something that regularly comes to the committee on a periodic basis, and this would be for the held for cause, so animals that that are remanded to the Humane Society for specific reasons. So, do we have any questions on that? Okay, I'll entertain a motion. A motion from Tierney, second. Second from Watson. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? And that carries. Okay. Item F, approving joint powers agreement with Marathon County regarding E911 NG 911 system. Again, this is another annual contract that needs that needs to move through the committee. So any questions on that?
And move to approve.
Okay, a motion from Watson, a second. Second from Greiner. Discussion? Not hearing anything. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? And that carries. Okay. Item G, approving budget modification for legal department. And there's some information in our packet about the expenses, escalating legal expenses we've got. We've already done one budget modification earlier this year, and this would be a second one. Hopefully, I think this will finish out the year. So, but cross our fingers. Wishful thinking. Any discussion on that? Questions? We do have Attorney Jacobson here to answer your questions on that.
I'd move to approve the budget modification.
Motion from Watson, a second. Second from McElhaney. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? And that carries. Item H, approving lease extension with Church of the Resurrection Parish. And this is the plot of the land next, across the street from the church, or west of the church, where your St. James School used to be. So, and this is extending that lease. Watson?
I just had a question about, like, what are we going to do with it? Like, I saw that there were going to be spots, and then it's going to be a green space. And then if we extend the lease, I mean, are we going to try to do the green space, or?
I don't know. Randy Pfeiffer, did you have anything do you know if there's any development plans for this plot next to the church, or we're just going to keep it green for now? Eric?
To give you a little history, when we took this piece of property on, there were some concepts put together for a park there, right? And money was never budgeted for that. We worked with the church, and as in the lease agreement, it will remain green space. But at this point, we don't have anything budgeted to make any improvements or anything at that point. Maybe sometime in the future, possibly, but not right now. So.
Personally, I got no problems with green space in the downtown area, and I think that's a good spot for it. So.
Okay.
Attorney Jacobson, I think you've got something to add?
I just wanted to add a comment. I've only brought this forward because it automatically renews after 10 years unless terminated. And I wanted to call that to the attention of the committee and give you an opportunity. Although I didn't think you'd want to terminate it, I wanted to point that out in the contract, give you the opportunity to do that, because we have to give them notice 30 days in advance of the end of the year. So that's why I brought it forward. But if you don't want to terminate it, then you take no action, then it will just automatically renew.
All right. Alder Watson.
I guess maybe this is a dumb question, but, like, how much are we paying?
Do you know, Mary Ann? $1.
Oh, okay. All right.
Probably in here, yeah. And we had that amendment, so we are in compliance with just leaving it green the way it is now. So we're not out of compliance with anything.
Okay.
Thank you.
So for consideration, it'll stay a green space. So. All right. If I don't hear it, if there's no opposition, I'll entertain a motion to approve the lease extension. Motion from Greiner, second from Tierney. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? And that carries. Okay. Do we want to do the land lease before the presentation, or
What's the land lease?
Wausau Downtown Airport?
Oh, sure, you could do that.
Yeah. We're going to skip ahead to item J before we get into the TID discussion. Approving Wausau Downtown Airport land lease. And this is a standard lease agreement for a hangar that individual wishes to construct in the hangar park. They build and own the hangar, we lease the land to them, and that's the same contract we've used for other land leases. So, Attorney Jacobson.
Mr. Chair, I was looking around to see if John Schmiel was here. We've been working on this all day, and I had a conversation with him this morning. We're not ready to bring it forward just quite yet to this committee this evening, so he asked that it be pulled
Okay.
from consideration from this agenda, but we plan to bring it back to Finance and Council if we can, back to back on December 9th, if we can reach terms with the lender by December 2nd to get it on the agenda. It just took longer than expected once this issue was raised to be able to contact the bank and the Bureau of Aeronautics to make sure that we weren't violating anything regarding airport property. But it looks like it will be possible to loan money to people that want to purchase or that want to finance private hangars on city municipally owned property. So they'll be able to mortgage their leasehold interest. It's just we need to work that out and go through the 20-page lease and incorporate everything in there. Thank you.
All right, with no objection from the committee, we will, we'll pull that for next month, or next meeting. Okay, that moves us to item number I, extending the life of tax increment districts number 7 for affordable housing. So, there's a short presentation in your packet, so.
So we did something similar to TID 6 on 23. So state law requires now that we have set the budget for 26, we must either terminate the district or approve a resolution to amend the district for 1 year to extend it for housing. That has to be adopted by Common Council before January 10th of 2026. If we decide to use it for that 1 year housing extension, 75% of the money is used for affordable housing based on statutes, and affordable housing is defined as housing that costs a household no more than 30% of the household's gross monthly income. And then the rest of it, the additional 25%, can be used on anything to improve the housing stock in the city. When we look at, well, what would we be able to apply for affordable housing in that year, it really is the increment. And obviously, we don't know what the 27 budget or what would be available. But based on this year, the budget and the tax that we're levying in the very near future, that increment for TID 7 is $1,966,623. So in theory, if everything would stay the same, that is the amount that we would be able to set aside for affordable housing. There are other revenues to the district, computer aid that we get from the state of Wisconsin and personal property aid. That is not available for that one-time housing extension. So when we look at what that $1,966,000 means to each one of the taxing jurisdictions, the city of Wausau represents about $842,000 of it. The Wausau School District, $665, Marathon County, $354, and North Central Technical College, $104,000. And the impact on the tax rate is 45 cents. So when that expires, in theory, that's how much of their levy is being used for the tax increment district. So if we decided to do the 1 year extension, Randy put together kind of what we're using TID 6 for and what we could potentially use TID 7 for. Again, nothing is set in stone. Obviously, the resolution on TID 6 set the 700 Grand Avenue and the West Side Commons project and Thomas Street infill as the target projects, and then just doing some suggestions, the MBX property and 1300 Cleveland Avenue could be used for that TID 7 because he felt that the TID 6 monies would be most likely exhausted from the projects currently listed for TID 6. So what would this mean to the budget if we decide to close the district or if we decide to keep it open? So again, only the increment is available for the extension. So if we extend it, we will be able to have the $1,966,000 for the affordable housing, and then the personal property and computer aid, we get a portion of that because, again, it's allocated to the other taxing jurisdictions. So our share ongoing, once the TID is closed, is about $69,000. And then also because of levy limit computations, if we close the district, even though our share was $824,000, for levy limit purposes, our levy can only go up $355,000. So while our share of the increment today is $824,000, we will only be able to increase the levy $355,000 once it's closed. So what are some of the options that council has? You could close the TID, and you would have approximately $424,000 to fund, for example, firefighters. So the 424 is that $355,000 that was calculated above, plus the $65,000 of PP aid and the computer aid. So that's how we come up with that $424,000. If we keep TID 7 open, $1.9 million will become available for housing, and that $69,000 would be available for the operating budget. Another option that the city could do is, knowing that TID 7 is going to be closed the following year, and if you were trying to solve, let's say, the firefighter problem, you could say we want to keep the TID open for that extra year, so we're going to take that $1,966,000. We would have the $69,000 available from the PP, and then you would just use reserves for 1 year of that $355,000 to help offset those 3 firefighters, because it will be available then for the 27 or the 28 budget, the 29 budget, and going forward. So those would be some of the options. People might have some other options that they've considered as well. But we do have to make a decision on whether you want to extend it 1 year, like I said, by that January 10th deadline.
Okay, any questions on that? Alder Tierney?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mary Ann, you were saying how a chunk of this has to go to affordable housing.
Yes.
And what if we decide that's not the best use of MBX? What affordable housing would it go towards?
Well, and that's why one of the suggestions we've made is if you just say you're going to use it for affordable housing and your resolution is relatively generic, then you would have some flexibility to move it to a different site. So if another site came open, you would be able to move that. If you specify the sites, that restricts your use of it a little bit more. So generally, we recommend that we keep our resolution open so that we can meet the needs that present themselves rather than doing really restrictive. And that's why this is just here for like presentation purposes. I don't know, Randy, if you have comments that you want to make on this?
Was Randy come up here? Is there a time limit?
No, there is no time limit for expenditure.
Okay, so we could allocate it for affordable housing and it could sit
Yes.
for whenever. Okay.
Yes, there is no time limit on everything, but from my sense of everything, I don't think the affordable housing problem within the community is going away, whether we do something on the MBX site in terms of affordable housing. I can't foresee the need for housing affordability going away. And as much as we'd like to think that this is a significant amount of money. It really doesn't go as far as we would like. I'm hopeful with what we've allocated based on the ARPA allocation to the CDA. With that, as well as what we have for TID 6, we'll be able to make progress and complete the Thomas Street infill. When we're talking about 1300 Cleveland, that could be very expensive in terms of trying to fill the gap on whatever project we have there. It may not be affordable housing, it may be something else. But for all these projects coming forward, I can't foresee that we're not going to have a good use for that money in the next 3 to 5 years.
Okay, yeah, that's the feeling I was getting, especially we don't know, what Cleveland Avenue is going to take quite a bit of time, and we don't know what MBX is going to turn into. So, Mary Ann, I'm trying to wrap my head around this point number 3, though, in the potential options. Keep TID 7 open for affordable housing. Authorize one-time transfer from reserves of $355,000 to the for the firefighters. That would be the equivalent of closing TID 7.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And then in 28, we can use the full amount of our available, once it was closed, the $424,000 after that point.
Yep.
And that'd be like, that's like the best, having our cake and eating it too, because we get 1.9 million for affordable housing. We're using reserves to pay for the firefighters, full knowing that in 28, it would be that money would be available. Okay, any questions? Alder Watson?
So if we did close it, it could potentially impact our taxes by 45 cents, right?
Yes.
That would, okay.
That would be the overall tax rate of
All the taxing entities?
Yes.
Okay. And then I thought, Sue, you mentioned at one point we wouldn't have to keep the entire increment, or we could close like part of it?
I don't know, I'm sorry. I don't believe that there would be time today to do a boundary amendment in time for this. You would have to do a boundary amendment to reduce the size of the district, which would then reduce that increment. We don't have time at this point to actually accomplish that, I don't believe.
Yeah, I would agree with Mary Ann in the fact that the process for going through joint review board and amending a TID boundary is probably 3 months versus what we have available today. One other thing I just wanted to point out with the affordable housing funds and why they're very beneficial and useful to the city is unlike TID dollars, they do not have boundaries. So we can use them wherever within the city of Wausau, within our entire boundary, and they're not defined to certain spaces. So if a need arises on the north side, south side, west side, east side, we're able to have flexibility with that money and bringing a solution to a potential problem.
Okay. Is this something we need to make a decision on today? I think the deadline was January 10th.
Yes.
So,
So I think that if we were to follow the council practices, we would have to do it in the December meeting because January 13th would be too late.
Okay.
And that's when it would go to council if it waited until December, unless you had 2 meetings in December, which we typically don't have 2 meetings of council.
because of the holidays.
And then we were this is on ED for Monday,
Correct. Tuesday.
Tuesday,
Stay
excuse
of
me.
next week. Okay. Alder Watson?
So could we come back and talk about it next meeting? Just think
And
about
then
it, mull
to
it
take
over.
it to council the same night?
Yeah.
I mean, we certainly could do that. I mean, we've already got a start on it, so we've seen the information. That gives us a chance to kind of digest it and think about scenarios, how they're gonna kind of work out, especially if it's gonna go through economic development next week.
It'll be good to hear what they have to say.
Hear what they have to say, and then we could come back and make a final decision. Is the committee okay with that? Just by consensus? Yeah, kinda. I mean, you're not ready to make a decision tonight, are you? No, I didn't think so. So, yeah. So, I mean, I'm totally, I'm in favor of the affordable housing, but I also know that, I know we need to look at options in order to, meet our budgetary obligations for next year. And I got to think through if I want to use reserves for that or not. And I think that's the pickle I'm kind of in right now. So, Alder Greiner.
Thank you, Chair. I have one more quick question. I know we're already running behind. It's for Director Pfeiffer. So if we did opt to keep this open, do you already have any projects earmarked for that 1.96 million? Do you have anything on the top of your head, like right now, that you could put that to use immediately?
Well, not in the immediate need because we still have that TID 6 money, but looking at future projects, we looked at that MBX project in 1300 Cleveland as projects that are on the horizon that are going to need funding in the coming years. And it's not that we get this money immediately next year. There's I don't know, was it 2027, Marianne, would you say it becomes available? So there's a kind of a process on that. So this would be money that we would earmark for those projects in the future or whatever else arises. I no longer pretend to know what's going to happen in the future. Just react.
I should have clarified that. I meant apart from the MBX and 1300 Cleveland Avenue projects, like for, project for independent homeowners, not just necessarily for affordable housing development in that regard. Like any programs or anything that we could use that for besides developing these properties, which we already own. And
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of options out there. We currently utilize our CDBG funds a lot for the single-family infill, which is going to low-income residents to purchase single-family homes. But it does open up, there's a variety of number of ways that we could look at ownership versus however we bring this out. Currently, we've been using the multifamily model just because it's the most effective way to get housing units available to the citizens. But there's a number of different ways that we can utilize the funds. They do have some restrictions on them, but for the most part, they are somewhat flexible as long as they're going to affordable housing in some sense.
okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Otherwise, we'll sit on this for next meeting. So, okay. With that, brings us to item number 4, adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Motion from Watson, second from Greiner. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.